Hey guys, welcome. What if Naruto was became great ninja Naruto x Arturia Pendragon movie. An 18-year-old stared out the windows of his apartment overlooking Times Square as the crowd began to get ready for the fireworks that were going to go off wildly later at the night. His hair was as if it had been kissed by the sun due to how bright his blonde hair was, his eyes were as blue as the ocean, and a trio of whiskered birthmarks on his cheeks, making him look as if he were a fox. This teenager was Naruto Uzumaki. Not long after his final battle with Sasuke when they sealed Kagaya and undid the infinite Tsukiyomi, the Uchiha decided to fuck everything up and start a one-man revolution that more or less failed. Why, you might ask? Well, their final attack wound up creating a disturbance in the ripples that made up their reality, and they both fell through it and landed in a world that had actively tried to kill them. Oh, Naruto survived thanks to his 6 paths in jutsu that somehow brought him a connection to the world, or Gaia as it called itself, but Sasuke was not so lucky. The will of the planet, or the counterforce as he learned later on as it was called, practically took the life of the Uchiha and left his corpse for dead. It wasn't long after this, an odd redhead found him and Sasuke's body and took him in to help him out. Yo, Naruto. Open up, it's me. Speaking of said redhead, Naruto moved away from the windows over to the door. Coming, damn it, just hold on. He was more annoyed than anything as opposed to being angry. Opening the door, he welcomed in his guest and teacher of magecraft. Yo, what's up, Ayoko-sensei? Naruto spoke with a bored tone. Ayoko Azaki had found him and Sasuke's body, helping get him back to health after she explained a bit as to who she was. She wore a pair of white jeans, black and red sneakers, blue belt, and a gray hoodie with a bright blue shirt that had a unicorn on it. Why she enjoyed that crap was beyond Naruto. He chalked it up to watching My Little Pony or something similar in her toddler days. Wah. Ayoko exclaimed with mock shock on her face as she set a bag down on the table. I come all this way to the States, kick some American Magi ass, get us some drinks for the night, just to see how my little foxy apprentice is doing, and that's the reception I get. Ayoko pouted as she crossed her arms. For shame, Naru, for shame. Naruto blew raspberry like a kid, seeing that Ayoko did act like that sometimes, if just to showcase that two can always play the game, whatever, so can you tell me what this is? He showed off the top of his right arm to showcase what looked like a red tattoo of a sword and 6 angelic wings spreading from it. Ayoko froze midway from unpacking the bag to see just what it was that Naruto had in his possession. She made her way over to Naruto as she took his arm, all the while taking in what her apprentice had been chosen to participate in. Naruto, these are command seals. The ninja magus could only arch a brow before he spoke. Command seals. Wait, his mind was trying to go through just what it was that he had learned from Ayoko ever since she offered him to become her student in magecraft, and then it hit him, the subjects of the true magics came back to his head. These command seals, it's for the heavens feel ritual, isn't it? The battle where 7 Magi and 7 heroes of the past would pair up and fight to the death in a battle royale for the Holy Grail. The 5th magician nodded in acknowledgement. The 4th Holy Grail War of Fuyuki will take place in 6 months, and the Grails decided to make you a master in the ritual. Ayoko let go of his arm before she took a step back to start drilling her student friend. So, what is your desire? Naruto furrowed his brows at the question. The question should be obvious. Well, I guess it'd be to go back home, but even that was more of a pipe dream at this point. Ayoko had explained the concept of parallel realities and dimensions, and that the flow of time, space and other various factors were a major component in traversing them through means that didn't require the second magic. But even that's just something I can only dream of. I mean, Naruto turned back to the windows as he stared outside to the world that he had made his home for a year now. Could I even go back and pick up where I left off? Break it to Sakura that I broke my promise to her. Went back on my word that it'd bring Sasuke back alive. There were a great many things he wanted to do then still wanted to do, but alas he couldn't. Ayoko understood well enough of Naruto, having to try and pry him out of the shell he had when he first arrived here, a war against zombie and plant terrorist ninjas, leading to the resurrection of a goddess that the ninja called Ancestor, that wielded power very much like the first and second magics. It certainly was something she doubted many could go through unscathed, maybe not. But do you know what it is that the Grail gives the final master and servant? No. The wish. Not what he was expecting at all, are you shitting me? In hindsight, that was something he should not have said in front of a girl, especially when said girl bonked him on the head with a chop. Oh. What was that for? For using language like that in front of a lady. Oh please, yeah, I've heard worse. My dear foxy apprentice has turned his back on the manners I taught him. Oh, fate, why are you so cruel? Ayoko had mock tears streaming down her eyes as she turned her back to him while speaking to the heavens themselves. Naruto just rolled his eyes before he felt another presence in his apartment. Turning to said presence that was now pouring up a drink at the countertop, he knew who it was after meeting the troll Jutsu once, Zelretch. Indeed, Kishore Zelretch Schwinnerg, the second magician or the kaleidoscope as he was called at times, was an elderly man with grey hair and a fancy suit with cane that had a gem on the top of it, ninja brat, enjoying your special alone time with your teacher here. This fucking troll. Ayoko just looked at Zelretch with a stink eye before she calmed down and started speaking. Well, I'd say good to see you again, although I'm not so sure I want you potentially poaching my student here. Ayoko knew that Zelretch had a tendency to drive his student literally insane, bar 3 from the 3 she knew of the founding families. And when Ayoko told the man she had taken in a student from beyond their reality, Zelretch seemed to chuckle darkly with glee. Now that's not what I'm here for at all. He finished pouring up the drink before taking a sip and continuing on, I'm actually here to provide some help if your apprentice is willing to listen. He gained an amused smirk as the two master and apprentice looked to one another briefly before nodding in sync for him to go ahead. Aha. I knew you'd concede. Very well then, clearing his throat, Zelretch gained a serious look on his face, something that he didn't do often. The Holy Grail War is indeed a war, a secret war concealed from the general population, with the aid of Holy Church to ensure its secrecy, and just as my colleague, Miss Azaki stated, the prize for this war is a wish, your deepest desires will be made reality. From something as small as being able to get a few extra inches added your height or to even make the world your own playground. Naruto's eyes widened, now realizing just why people killed one another for the Holy Grail. Wow. Oh yeah, people love trying to get in, but the Grail's picky about woes a master. Zelretch glanced down at the command seals that Naruto had in his possession, however, it certainly seemed to know just how unique you are and decided to make you one of the lucky 7 in the world to try and get it. Ayoko looked to Naruto who held the command seals up to his face, gazing at the crystallized high magic that embedded itself into his body, wondering just what it is that he wanted. Naruto spoke aloud more to himself as opposed to the magicians. Why me? Just what the hell is it that I'd even wish for? Perhaps going through with the ritual may reveal it to you, Naruto. Ayoko spoke up, she knew that Naruto was trying to find something to do with his life, having been forced into a world that nearly robbed him of all his powers and skills accumulated through life. If the Grail was something that could help him find out what it is that he wanted. Then maybe, just maybe, she could finally see a genuine smile on his face, unlike all those fake ones he would put up to try and ease her worry for him at times. Phasing back out to the city, Naruto mulled everything over in his mind before turning back to Ayoko and Zelretch with an answer. What do I need to do? The old vampire wanted to fist pump in victory but decided against it and show himself to be even worse than Ayoko. Rather instead, he let her take the lead from here before pulling out what he brought with him. First off, you'll need to get a catalyst to summon the heroic spirit of your choosing when it comes to begin the war. Although the earliest you can summon the servant is a month until the war officially begins, Ayoko explained to Naruto. Yeah, about those things, Zelretch said while rubbing the back of his head. I actually might snuck in and change the system up a bit and brought with me a catalyst. Naruto grew confused. Wait, should I choose which servant I want to have fight alongside me? He didn't want to wind up with a douchebag servant that had butt heads with constantly. Ayoko narrowed her eyes, and just what is it that you've changed in the Grail's system, eh? Considering who she was talking to, she should have known the old vampire would do something to sate his curiosity and amusement. I might extended the time a servant can be summoned before the war begins, along with making it so that only one servant can do so, and added in one extra master slot. An awkward silence filled the air as the master and apprentice merely stared at the dead apostle, who had an amused expression on his face. You planned this, didn't you? Ayoko said, breaking the silence. You have no proof. Zelretch exclaimed happily before he pulled out a box and gestured for Naruto to take it. And here's your catalyst. Naruto took the box and opened it up to see that it was a broken black visor of sorts. What the hell kind of legend used this in battle? Naruto asked before a forlorn look came across Zelretch's face. Someone who honestly, he breathed in deeply before exhaling, who did not deserve such a fate of eternal damnation, forced to constantly continue seeking the Grail, if but to never obtain it. He looked back to Naruto as he continued, someone that desperately needs a friend, having been cast down into the darkness with no one there for her at all to pull her out. He gave Naruto a steely look. I think that you of all people can help her end her suffering. Naruto returned the look before speaking, if this person's suffering then why me? What can I do for them? He got a toothy grin from his provider. What is it that you told me, Ayoko? That Naruto never gives up and never gives in. Then I think you won't give up on her one damn bit, unlike her previous master who honestly had a good heart, didn't do a damn thing to save her from being destroyed by the darkness. He pointed to Naruto's heart, but you yes. You can help her more than anyone else ever could or dared to do so, Naruto, will you give up on her if she decides to remain in darkness? That was what Zelretch was asking him. Naruto never once gave up on saving someone trapped in the darkness. Gaara, Nagato, Obito, Sasuke never gave up on any of them when they were trapped in the darkness of their beliefs and ideals. Hell to the fucking no, am I gonna abandon her if she's suffering as much as you say she is, and if she was summoned before with a master that gave up on her. Then I'd say he sucked as not just a master, but also as a human being. If he decided to be that damn selfish, if he couldn't save one person that was close to him, then I guess he didn't deserve her as his servant. Naruto knew that with this battle, the master and servant needed to be in sync with one another, deepen their bond through not just creating good battle tactics and strategies, but to also get to know who they were in and out, to befriend and create a bond so strong and so unique that nothing could destroy it. This servant Zelretch was telling him to summon was in desperate need of help. If her previous master had up and abandoned her, Naruto more than likely would beat his lights out if he ever met the person, call him overly sensitive, but the ninja had a very particularly strong feeling about people with those kinds of pasts. Zelretch closed his eyes as he smiled, then I'll take my leave, I hope that you both prevail in the coming war. He turned around to make his way out through the front door, but then stopped before turning back to face Naruto. Oh, who am I kidding, Ayako, your student will prevail in saving her. And with that, the centuries-old vampire exited the apartment to leave the fifth magician and her student alone to begin the summoning later in the night. Well, let's clear out some space, shall we? 1:54 a.m. The duo had cleared out the living room as Ayako finished with the summoning circle, and there. Done. Dusting her hands off, she looked to Naruto, the rest is up to you, my apprentice. Ayako stepped out of the circle as he stared at the catalyst before deciding to do something. What are you doing? You don't have much time left before your peak minute hits. Naruto traced his hands over the broken visor and felt something evil lurking within it. The pulsating red lines within the visor showcased that it was the source of the corruption, but knew regardless he could not change the core of who he would be summoning. I want to try something before I start the summoning, if I'm right. Then the spirit I summon will be a bit more social, I guess is what I'm trying to say, especially if they were going to be just as bullheaded as the previous people he met in life. Sitting down cross-legged, Naruto began to go into his 6 paths in jutsu mode before he touched the broken visor and channeled the energy into it to eradicate the evil within it. His fingertips began to bleed as the visor glowed an ominous red and black before it evaporated violently, accompanied by a loud, inhuman screech that left the room. Ayoko's eyes were wide in shock at what happened, not expecting that at all, though her apprentice needed some help up. Here Naruto, take my hand, are you alright? She checked his hands to see that whatever evil he purged left a small scar on one of his fingers before it began to heal. Naruto waved it off before he placed the catalyst opposite from him. It'll be alright, but I think the servant I summon will be a bit more open and make things easier for us to get along. Taking up his stance, Naruto held out the hand that held the command seals out away from him and directed it towards the summoning circle as he began the chant with the clock now striking 2. Popping the cap off the bottle of mercury, Naruto started things off. Fill, 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 fill. Repeat 5 times, but when each is filled, destroy it. The circle filled with the mercury as it began to glow green with the power pulsating through it. For the elements, silver and iron, for the foundation, stone and the Archduke of Pax, and for my great master, Azaki, raise the wall against the wind, close the gates of the 4 directions, come forth from the crown, and follow the forked road leading to the kingdom. The circle began to shine brightly as it started to blow the air around the occupants. Naruto held his ground despite the minor injury from his fingers beginning to bleed again. Heed my words, my will creates your body, and your sword creates my destiny. If you heed the Grail's call and obey my will and reason, then answer my summoning. Ayako saw that the light began to turn darker with the chant drawing to a close, and the mana it gave off was overwhelming. I hereby swear that I shall be all the good in the world. That I shall defeat all evil in the world. The light now more akin to blacklight that one would see in clubs or late-night raves with people partying it out, but this felt different to her. Naruto thrust his hand out as he metaphorically held his hand out for the heroic spirit to take his hand and come into the modern world. 7th heaven, clad in the great words of power, come forth from the circle of binding, guardian of the scales. As the blacklight show began to die down, Naruto and Ayako were forced to rub their eyes and cough as the summoning felt off and the servant Naruto had summoned, well. It was a woman no doubt after what Zelretch said that stood around 52, however it was the deadly looking armor that he took notice of, dyed in jet black, it covered the entirety of her torso and back no doubt judging from the design, her shoulders were puffed up like royalty of old, her legs and feet were covered by the armor, with the feet more akin to heels than actually boots. The gauntlets she wore on her hands and arms were spiked and made her more like a dragon, if the aura she gave off was correct, but the visor she wore over her eyes was caught his attention. It gave off the appearance of one who refused to acknowledge the world around them, to focus solely on their goal whatever it may be. Her pale blonde hair was tied up in a bun with bangs hanging off the sides of the visor that matched the pale skin tone that she had. Naruto stood his ground all the while the young woman stared at him through the visor. She held her gauntleted hand up as she clenched it briefly before she exhaled in comfort. Perhaps it was the evil that his 6 paths in jutsu had eradicated from the catalyst and in doing so worked to what he wanted. Either way, neither Naruto nor Aoko said a word to the servant, simply allowing her to take her time and make the first move in their wordplay that would seal their pact. All the while Naruto's sixth sense as a Grail War master kicked in, and then he saw just how monstrous her stats and skills were. Strength A. Endurance A+. Agility B. Mana A++X. Luck A. Noble Phantasm A++X. Magic Resistance A. Writing A. Charisma E. Instinct A. Mana Burst A+. Double Summon B. Blessings from the Ends of the World AX. My Naruto, you've summoned a monster of a servant for this Grail War. Aoko had told him that a servant's parameters and skills were all based upon their respective master, and Naruto knew that he was without a doubt one of the strongest people in this world, bar the upper echelons of the Mages Association, that included his teacher and Zelretch. As Naruto calmly analyzed the servant before him, he got a bad feeling from her, and his tenant didn't disagree. Watch your ass Naruto, shess bad news. Yes, Kurama had remained within Naruto, despite how the counter-force had affected him, his ability to sense negative emotions did not waver, although he did have to say that the servant was radiating it like crazy. I ask you, the woman spoke up in a monotone voice that would have chilled anyone if they weren't Naruto and Aoko. Are you worthy? She took the visor off to gaze into Naruto's eyes. To be my master. If Naruto had a few words to describe her, seductive and deadly beauty is what would be accurate of those amber eyes that seemed to home into his soul, already seemingly claiming him as her own. Naruto didn't back down from the obvious challenge inserted into her words. My name's Naruto Uzumaki, and yes, I'm your master. Even if he didn't trust the servant, he wasn't going to abandon her, repulsed as he was by the negativity she gave off. The servant narrowed her amber orbs at him, seeing any sign of weakness within him, but found none of it. I am your servant, Saber, henceforth, my sword is yours, my body is your shield, my soul your tool, our pact has now been sealed. Unknown to her master and teacher, the Grail had brought her forth into a year that was prior to what she knew would happen. The altered Arturia could see this as her final chance, and nothing would stand in her way. This master was strong enough to overshadow all others. The mana she was receiving was similar to the one that had forcibly enthralled her to that disgusting being. Only that there was a slight difference between the two that she noticed through their pact. Nevertheless, this all but confirmed for her that she would have victory in the end. On this night, a night that would change the course of the Fourth Fuyuki Holy Grail War, was where an odd and unique bond was born, and the fate of a young Night King would change from the fate that was laid out for her. What's got your attention there, Saber? Aoko brought out a few cans of drive pepper as she threw one to Saber, who caught it while looking out to the city below here. No longer in the heavy armor, she had removed it for comfort and instead wore the elegant black dress beneath it, a deep purple and black dress that was fastened to her neck by a black choker. White filigree adorned both the hem of the dress and cuffs of the detached sleeves. Sticking out of the bottom of the dress was a pair of matching purple low-heeled boots. My master. She popped the can and took a swig of the contents before continuing. I did not expect him to be so repulsed upon meeting me. Her voice barely held any emotion within it, although Aoko could hear the trace amounts of curiosity. Well, has always been a cautious guy, that Naruto, Aoko recalled many a times when he would seem down, but next thing she knew, after showing him another new thing in the world, that positive attitude rose up. But there were times whenever he came across someone he couldn't stand no matter what they did. I take it that you aren't very trustful of others, are you? From what she could tell based upon the slight body movements that Saber made upon her summoning, she was uncomfortable. Saber Alter looked down briefly before casting her sight back to Aoko. I was summoned 2 previous times by masters that were not what I had hoped for. You were summoned twice before. What are the odds of that happening? That was genuinely surprising since heroic spirits held no memory of previous Grail Wars upon being summoned. So what about your previous masters? Was there something wrong with them? Next thing Aoko knew, Saber Alter crushed the can with the liquid still inside. My first master I despised in the end, and I hate him as such, so, she carried a grudge against him. As for my second master she turned back around to the city, leaving the sentence unfinished and Aoko rather curious about the servant's past. I'm back, the apartment door to reveal Naruto with several bags of clothes. I wasn't sure what you liked, so I just got you one of everything. He had picked out nothing but black and purple for her, seeing that was something she more than likely would only wear. I thank you, master. Yeah, well, just let me know if you need anything else. 6 months later, January 31st, 1994, JFK International, New York City. Got everything you guys need? Yes, sensei. Plenty of clothes? Yes. Personal entertainment? Yes. Pavel too, all nice and cozy in his cage? Pavel too is in his fortress of solitude and it has a nice new mat for him to rest in. Ayoko had driven her student and his servant to JFK International Airport to take their long trip to Fuyuki. It had been 6 months since Saber Alter, as she referred to herself, or Alter for short, for whatever reason, had been summoned by Naruto, and the two had eventually developed a genuine bond between one another, at least after a few weeks, that is. At first, she had been an emotional brick wall that didn't yield to Naruto's happy-go-lucky attitude, or rather his lack of, for many weeks upon their contract forged, when she insulted him once on his beliefs. That had warranted a rather outspoken reply from Naruto that resulted in their underground training room to be redecorated quite extensively. Blood was a stain that was pretty hard to get out of things. Safe to say, she started to respect Naruto afterwards as she garnered a different perspective of her master. Now she stood in front of a rather more open and slightly more positive Alter that loved junk food and cuddled the crap out of their dog, Cavill too, and even Naruto at certain times, if Ayoko was correct in how their bond progressed about a couple of months ago. No longer wearing the armor or dress, Alter instead had her hair done up in a ponytail that had reached down to her mid-back, along with wearing a black tank top, jacket, shorts and belt, along with an X necklace with leather boots that went up to her mid-thighs. You wouldn't expect a king to wear that sort of getup at all, even with her small change in personality. "We do have a flight schedule to keep up with, you know, Ayoko-sensei," Naruto said as he was getting impatient. They had several flights and buses to take before they reached Fuyuki. "I'd rather we get there before the other masters and servants set up shop before us and start taking pot shots as soon as we step into the big suck." "Indeed, I would prefer to be ready for battle before the others arrive," Alter said just as the dog barked. "See, even Cavill too agrees with us." Cavill too was a white-haired Samoyed breed dog, currently in a dog crate chewing on a squeaky toy. Alter found him one day routing around a dumpster behind the burger joint she favored and couldn't resist feeding him, seeing such a lonely face on the doggy, feeding him her leftovers which she always had. When gorging on junk food, the dog had followed her back to the apartment, with Alter giving Naruto her own brand of puppy dog eyes to keep him, only she had to take care of him herself, and thus, she named him Cavill too and charged him with guarding their castle above the plebeians. A clear reference to her own castle she had as the king of knights 1500 years ago, along with her original hunting dog from her youth. Ayoko shook her head as she smiled at the duo +1 doggy that was too damned adorable to argue with. "Well, I guess all I can say now is good luck. If you need me, it'll be in Fuyuki in no time at all. I'll be sure to give you a call once we get to the apartment you got for us," Naruto said before he, along with Alter and Cavill in his crate, took their luggage and entered the airport. As the trio boarded their flight, Naruto and Alter had to let them take Cavill down into the cargo hold, where everything was pressurized with the other pets traveling about with other passengers. Alter practically demanded that he be kept up in first class with them, though that seemed to only make things more difficult before Naruto had to step in before she got ugly. And if Alter got ugly, someone's face was going to be carved up, caved in, symbol of manhood lost, you get the idea. HMPH. I can't believe the audacity that these people have to do that to Cavill. Alter sat in her seat pouting with Naruto, merely getting a pair of pillows out from the luggage compartment above them. "He is a hunting dog of the highest order. Or at least I think Hess descended from one." She put a finger to her chin and thought at how Cavill would always bring them something they needed at the most convenient times, whether it was a book, food, remotes for the TV that always seemed to go missing, or whatever was laying around the apartment. "Just relax, Saber, I'm sure Cavill is fine. If you want I can send a clone to keep him company," Naruto offered before handing her a pillow before taking his seat next to Alter, who still wasn't pleased at her loyal hound being stuck in his cage in the cargo hold. "I will accept it, but it doesn't mean I enjoy the fact that Cavill too is being treated like a common mutt. He is of higher breed," Alter exclaimed. She placed her head on the pillow as she tried to rest, given they had a long trip to get through, shifting her head and closing her eyes. Naruto chuckled before he did the same and closed his eyes. Alter eyes lifted open as she looked at her master's reflection before her eyes focus on the outside plane window. The plane didn't take long for it to leave the airport and to take off. As it reached a stable altitude, Naruto was awakened from his nap when he heard a small whimper, opening his eyes to see Alter's head on his shoulder. But that wasn't the thing that caught his attention. She was shaking, her face covered in sweat, as she sweat through her sleep. She muttered something, although Naruto was able to make out a few words. "No more, make it stop, don't make me do this. Alter." Naruto then began to shake the girl, causing her to jolt up with a fright. Her eyes widened with alert as she almost materialized her sword, though Naruto took her a hold of her hand in an effort to calm her down. "Alter, it's okay. I apologize, master, I didn't mean to wake you," the pale woman stated, unable to meet the blonde's eyes. "The nightmares again?" he asked with visible concern on his face. His partner stared at him with her amber eyes before she simply closed them to try and get back to sleep. He sighed as he leaned back in his seat as he watched her sleep. "Looks like he won't be getting any rest during the trip." Ever since he had managed to get through that thick skull of hers and the dream cycle, he knew all too well what it was that she was going through, the same nightmare of that thing. Many hours, flights and rides later. I hate her. I know, Naruto replied with a straight face as he, along with Alter and Cavill, panting happily in his cage as the female servant held his paw in her hand. It has been a rather tiring trip for them after spending over 5 hours on a plane ride over to Lax, not counting the wait time and all the troublesome security checks. Then Duo had to deal with a flight delayed that lasted for about an hour before they managed to get from Lax to Tokyo, which then lasted 12 hours on the plane. After getting off the plane, they had to immediately grab their luggage and Cavill. No way would they leave their favorite dog behind. And then catch the bullet trains from Tokyo to Shintosu Station, which was annoying to deal with, but they made it without any problems. But it was annoying to have to carry all of their bags to the station. Arriving to Shintosu Station, they were forced to take a very long bus ride to get to on another bus that is currently en route towards Fuyuki City. They had been traveling for over a day just to get to the site of the Holy Grail War, and they neither of them were happy with the length of the trip. "How long do we have until we arrive inside the city, master?" Alter asked, digging through her bag, taking out a small bacon-shaped dog treat and feed the white dog, though the cage door. "I don't want to have Cavill to have an accident in the cage. I would prefer to avoid dealing with that. The last time was some things were better left unsaid." If what the driver said, then we should be seeing. Naruto paused when he saw Fuyuki coming into view, tapping his servant on the shoulder, who gave him a look before seeing the sight in front of her. Since it was dark, the city of Fuyuki was bustling with the array of lights, as the nightlife seemed to have recently started. "We made it," Alter muttered with a soft voice, prompting Naruto to look at her when he noticed the rather solemn expression. She closed her eyes as she took a deep breath. She reopened them as something caught her attention from the corner of her eye. "Master, is that what I think it is?" She then pointed in the direction as Naruto looked. His eyes narrowed as his brow began to twitch when he caught the sight of an airport just outside the city limits, the two-eyed plane that was leaving the ground, taking off to wherever it was going. "I really hate Aoko," Master Alter said. Her eyes narrowed as she took an even breath, trying to keep a calm demeanor. She should recalled this little detail. Her master sighed as he rubbed his hand across his face, groaning at the fact the two of them fell for Aoko's prank. Taking the scenic route, as it were. I know," Naruto replied, currently sharing very similar thoughts that his servant was currently having at the moment. He just knew that his sensei was currently laughing her head off in New York, all the while she watched that shitty cartoon that she loved with yellow-skinned people. He will get her back for this. Maybe he can get his servant to help. Some time later. "Finally!" Naruto exclaimed as he kicked the door open to a penthouse that he and Alter would be staying for the night before they moved to their more permanent residence for the duration of the war. After getting off the bus, the master and servant duo agreed to get Aoko back later. Grabbing their luggage, they hailed a taxi to drive to their hotel. It wasn't the most prestigious, but it was good enough to satisfy Alter's taste. Carrying their things inside, Naruto threw his stuff to the side and plopped on the large king-size bed. "Oh, so soft. Master? Stop your antics and put your stuff away properly. I will not have you mess up our new room like you did your apartment. It's a pigsty." Alter yelled out as she walked in with Cavill in his kennel, before placing it down and unlocking it as the white dog ran out and jumped on the bed next to Naruto before giving the ninja started licking his face. "Stop. Cavill." Naruto tried to stop the dog, though he was enjoying the attention from the fluffy dog. Alter rolled her eyes with a small smirk that she never showed anyone, except for perhaps one. Her eyes scanned the penthouse. The walls were painted pearl white with expensive-looking furniture, as well as a large TV, however. The most important thing to her was the large kitchen area that was in the corner of the room. Her eyes were then directed to the lone bed where Naruto and her loyal hound were laying on. "I guess he likes the bed, huh, Alter?" Naruto said as the ninja ruffled Cavill's fur rapidly. "Master, stop acting like a child, and I don't want Cavill getting too worked up before we go to bed." Alter stated as much as she loved the dog, she'd rather not deal with a hyperactive dog that would keep them up through the middle of the night, simply because her master gotten him all riled up. "Now get unpacked. I will not have this place unkempt like the New York apartment." Yeah, come on Cavill, let's get busy," Naruto said as he picked the dog off the bed, who barked once as he wagged his tail before laying on his back and rubbing his body against the soft and probably new sheets. Grabbing his bag along with Alter's own, he unzipped them to begin unpacking. He saw her standing by the window staring out into the city from the reflection. He saw a hint of something negative flash on her face. He couldn't figure out what it was before it returned to her default expression. Cavill seemed to have sensed something was troubling his mistress as the Samoy had made his way up to her, letting out a soft whimper, catching her attention. Her face softened up as she crouched down and scratches the dog's neck, who enjoyed the sensation. Naruto smiled at the sight of the two. Ever since she had brought home the fluffy dog, the servant's cold demeanor was been defrosted a little. He just wished that they were more open in their relationship, turning to putting away their things into the closet and wardrobes in their temporary home. It took a while before Naruto finished putting everything away, as he saw the pale girl on the bed cuddling with the dog, rubbing her face into his fur. Looking at the time on the nearby clock, he saw that it was just after 7 p.m. He sighed since it was too early to go to sleep, and it didn't help that he rested a bit on the trip. Thinking about what to do to pass the time when he noticed that his servant was laying on the couch in front of the large TV watching some crime show, Lethal Weapon 2 if he recalled correctly, as she cuddled with Cavill, he felt his eye twitch as he watched them relaxing cold and she at least have put things away, even if they were staying in for the night. "Master, I'm hungry. Make me something." Alter exclaimed when she noticed Naruto staring at them. "With what? We just got here, when would I have time to go to the market?" He replied when the king clicked her tongue in annoyance. "If you want to eat then we'll need to go out for it." "If we must," Alter muttered as her eyes darted towards the TV grumbling about the fact she'd have to go out to eat. Instead of eating her master's delicious cooking she wondered if there was a good burger joint around this hotel. Wait, if she recalled when they entered the hotel lobby she recalled here there was restaurant attached to the hotel. "Master? We are going out." She called out to her master who jumped from his seat next to her as she didn't notice him taking a seat on the couch. "Go get dressed post haste." "Where are we going?" Naruto couldn't help but ask as Cavill tilted his head in confusion as well. The servant ignored what Naruto had said as she took his while dragging him towards the bathroom. "Hurry and take a shower, we will share one to save time." "What?" Naruto's face was as red as tomato after hearing those words. "One very quick and awkward shower later." "I don't remember packing a suit," Naruto muttered to himself as he stared at his image in the mirror after Alter forced him to take a shower so they can go out to eat. After getting out of the shower, Naruto saw that laying on the bed was a black two-piece suit with matching dress shoes, belt and a white button-up shirt. He wondered why Alter would have an outfit like this prepared for him. But the fact that it fit his frame so well told him that she was aware of his clothing size. Did she ask Aoko for it? "I guess I should be happy she got this for me, at least I look good in this, right, Cavill?" The dog barked in response as he watched Naruto looking himself over with a wag of his tail when the dogs turned his head when it heard the bathroom door open. "Oh, good, you're ready, master." "Yep." Naruto said as he popped a pee. His eyes then start towards the reflection of his servant who was brushing off something from her shoulder. She adorned the same purple and black dress she had worn before Naruto bought her clothes, however, this time she didn't have the sleeves, showing off her creamy shoulders and back. She really looked good like that if he was being honest with himself. "I see the suit I bought you fits," Alter said softly more to herself than to him. Naruto agreed before flashing her a grin, "Though I gotta say, your highness, you look beautiful this evening." "Of course, I do. But enough playing around, master, you king is famished, and I will not wait any longer." Alter quickly wanted to get going as her bottomless stomach wanted the glorious, steamy, juicy goodness of junk food. Naruto held out his arm as Alter wrapped her around it, and the two made for the door. Alter turned back to their doggy as she spoke to him. "Cavill 2, hold down the fort for us." One bark meaning yes. "Attack anyone that tries to enter, that isn't the two of us." Another bark for confirmation for his mistress. The duo left as they made their way towards the elevator, where they passed a few men who eyed the pale girl with hungry eyes, whom promptly ignored them, as her mind was focused on finding the nearest meal to consume. Naruto, however, gave them a slight glare, forcing them to look away and hurry off. A short elevator ride later, it soon arrived at the lobby as the servant led the two. "So where are we going to eat that involved me being in a suit?" Naruto questioned as the girl paused, looking at him for a moment before she began leading him again. Wait, did her nose just twitch? Was she really doing what he thought she'd doing? His eyes narrowed when he soon saw a restaurant. "So I did hear right," she said with a grin as her nose twitched as she caught the scent of food coming from inside. Naruto on the other hand was suspicious. Having lived with the servant for many months, he knew for a fact that she hates pretty much anything that isn't junk food, preferring burgers, pizza, hot dogs, nachos, etc. than anything else, so why would a girl that despite being a king bring him to what seemed to be a classy restaurant when she only eats junk food? "Hurry up, master, I will not waste another moment of you holding us up." Alter then used her strength and tugged him to move. Naruto complied as they walked through the door. As the restaurant host lifted his head from the desk, he stood behind. "Ah, welcome, how can I help you tonight?" the host said looking at them when Alter took it from there. "We will like 2 seats preferably away from the other patrons." Alter spoke with a firm tone making Naruto and the host sweat. Clearly her ranky charisma was at work. The man gulped before coughing as he grabbed 2 menus from underneath the desk and led the two inside. Inside there weren't that many guests eating, about 5 groups of 2, which was surprising to Naruto. Well, given the time, they might be early right before the dinner rush. The host then led them to a table, which had quite the distance away from the other guest. But it was closer to the kitchen. The two then took their seat with Naruto help Alter by pulling out her chair as she let out a small chuckle at the chivalrous act, funny, since she herself lacked her previous sense of chivalry, only to slowly regain bits and pieces of it since her summoning. When they were seated, the host walked off as a waitress took his spot. "Good evening, I'll be your waitress this evening. Would the two of you like anything to drink to start off? We have a selection of wine." "I would like to see the list," Alter ordered, catching the woman off guard, who then bowed as she fetched a wine list. The two then began to scan the restaurant's menu when Alter's eyes widened as her eyes caught the sight of something at the top of one of the pages. Exotic hamburgers. Her eyes look and read each burger and the ingredients underneath them: teriyaki beef, yasai burger, Ichiban burger. Her mouth was starting to water as she looked at the pictures on the menu. "Here is the list of. We're ready to order." Alter quickly cut the woman off mid-sentence as Naruto looked confused at the sudden change of the situation. He still didn't know what he wanted to drink. "Oh okay, what would you like to order for tonight?" The waitress quickly grabbed her notepad as she prepared to write down the deadly woman's order. "I would like one of every single exotic burger on the menu." The moment the words left her mouth, the waitress almost dropped her notepad. "Oh, one of everything?" the female worker asked as if her ears deceived her, but the pale girl nodded her head as she had grabbed the wine list and picked the one that caught her eye. "And we will also take the Ridgeview Knightsbridge wine," making him flinch. He can already feel his wallet becoming lighter. Good thing his sensei made him get that card. I understand," the woman muttered in shock before Naruto gave her his order, a simple steak. After that she walked off to the kitchen area. After the waitress left, the two were left in silence, which made Naruto feel uncomfortable. Soon another man came up to them with two glasses in their hand and a bottle of wine, showing it to them, and began pour it into the glass. "Leave the bottle," Alter commanded as the man bowed in response and walked off. She then held her glass eye level and studied it before taking an elegant sip. "Not bad, but I've had better. It's a shame I can't taste that for a while." "What do you mean?" Naruto asked, eager to start a conversation as his eyes darted to the host bringing in another couple to a table. It looked like the dinner rush was about to begin, but he felt bad for the kitchen staff that will have to deal with the bottomless stomach that was his servant. "Nothing, just reminiscing for the most part, master," the pale girl stated softly, her eyes softened at the memory before taking another sip of her wine. The memory of another teenager preparing dinner for her and others at the table. "I see," the blonde muttered. Out the corner of his eye he saw a couple standing up, making their way to an open area and began to dance. Alter sat her glass down as she stood up, catching Naruto's attention, and made her way around the table as held her hand out. "You know that it's usually the guys who ask the girl to dance." Naruto let out a small chuckle as he stood up and grabbed a hold of Alter's small hand, then the girl led him out onto the dance floor, placing his hand on her thin waist. The two moved slowly with the beat. "I didn't expect you to be a dancer. As a king, it is something that wasn't really needed, but a certain person forced me to learn. I spent many hours learning to dance," she said as the two stared into one another. "It's nice to see you finally opening up a bit more like those other times," the master admitted, making her eye close her eyes with small huff. "She looked cute like that sometimes." "Don't look too much into it. After tonight the war will start," Alter said, making Naruto tense his muscles for a moment, which was enough for his servant to notice. "Who knows what can happen after tomorrow, so let's just enjoy the moment." She then closed her eyes as the two slow danced as they enjoyed the moment. The Sokka manner. Interesting. A well-dressed man that was clad in a white long-sleeve shirt with a crimson tuxedo over it that has black buttons, a blue ribbon, and brown shoes. He held elegant black hair, a goatee, and blue eyes. He closed his eyes as he twirled a glass of wine in his hand at the information his familiar just gave him. This might be a potential problem. He then drank the rest of the wine before taking a deep breath. "No, I take that back instead. This is a problem," Tokiomi Tashaka stated with certainty. He was the head of the Tashaka family, one of the three families that created the Holy Grail War. The purpose of the war and his family's mission was to find the truth and to reach the root of all knowledge, or Akasha as it was called. Now this mission was threatened by what he just learned. "The fifth magic has begun encroaching upon the war," Tokiomi said with clear annoyance in his voice. Earlier this morning he was informed by the church that a master had entered the city, so he immediately sent his familiar to investigate, which was when he saw a blonde man with whiskers who had gained a reputation due to his relation to Aoko as her apprentice. "The apprentice of the fifth magician Naruto Uzumaki. Nothing is known about you despite the fact your master is suppressing everything about you. I wonder why. Still, despite that, Hess in the making of obtaining the fifth magic, thus turning him into a danger to fight, and with what is known about the fifth magician, then she will not hesitate to get involved to help him if he contacts her, and if she does, then I doubt even the Gate of Babylon can fight against entropy itself." Entropy was one of the fundamental aspects of reality itself. Not even dead apostles were capable of fighting against such a force. Tokiomi then heard an explosion that shook the manor. It would appear that Gilgamesh has completed his task, so the war beings. The man refreshed his glass as his mind was on possible scenarios to deal with this new master with a light grimace. Downtown Fuyuki. Maya wasn't a normal woman, no, far from it. Not much is known about her, due to her suppressing her memory about it, because she felt she truly lived was when she met him, Kiritsugu, who became Maya's mentor and taught her his way of life, rescued Maya. Even her real name was something she couldn't remember, and her current name was created by Kiritsugu. When Kiritsugu was hired by the Einsburns to obtain the Holy Grail 8 years before the Fourth Heavens fell, he entrusted Maya with all his former equipment, even his mystic code, the Thompson contender with his origin rounds. He trusted her completely as she did in turn. Kiritsugu had ordered her to Fuyuki City a month ahead of time when he would arrive and before his wife and servant did. He gave her specific instructions on what to do. Acquire several safe houses, gather information on points of interest, potential backup safe houses and hideouts, but most importantly gather info on the masters and servant of the war. For the rest of the month she had her bat familiars comb the city for any side of them. For the most part she had done well. She gathered information on 5 of the 7 masters of the war, not including the recent entry that somehow slipped under the radar in the form of Waver Velvet. Nothing else of significance had come up, that is until recently one of her familiar caught the sight of Archer, who she had confirmed to be the servant to the master of the Tohasaka head, killing the servant assassin. She immediately put this in her files to inform Kiritsugu about when her other familiar caught the sight of the 6th master. She brought up the image that it had captured on her portable computer. Moreover, to her surprise, it was the apprentice of the 5th magician, which was a big deal in itself. However, what shocked her was the woman next to him. Isn't that? Maya spoke aloud as she brought up an image of Kiritsugu's servant that he had sent to her to identify properly using the fake ID as the picture and compared it to the woman in the other. Taking out her phone, Maya dialed the number she knew by heart. It took a moment before the call connected. Maya, what is it? I thought I told you that we won't make contact for another 12 hours. Kiritsugu, we have a problem. Your servant, Saber, chess with Madame Arizviel, correct? Yes, why are you asking me this? I see, then I have something you need to see once you arrive here. So I stop here.